if the world is going to go against Robin, then the Straw Hats are going to go against the world. It's like I had known, but I hadn't known, and I probably still don't know. I'm crying about a ship, the full extent to how awesome this show is. Hey, what's up? It's me, Meanie Mosey, and welcome to my channel where I talk about anime and I do anime related things. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you happen to be binge watching my One Piece content right now, you may hear a slight difference in the sound quality of this video, and that's because I got a microphone for Christmas. Hooray for improved audio quality, right? If you yourself would like to contribute to improvements such as this on my channel, or you're simply enjoying the content, feel free to leave a tip in my online tip jar. Just click the coffee link in the description below. You can also show your appreciation the good old-fashioned way by giving this video a like, leaving a comment, and most importantly, subscribing to my channel. Now that that's all out of the way, it's time for... I don't think I can call it that for much longer though, can I? This is a big one. While all of the prior adventures that the Straw Hats went on seemed pretty self-contained, Enies Lobby touches everything that we've seen so far, from the poneglyphs from Alabasta and Skypiea, to the 100 years of missing history, to the ancient weapon. I feel like you have the main plot of One Piece, and then you have the main plot, and Robin is in the middle of all of it. As usual, there is so much to talk about, so I guess we'll start at the beginning. You have the Straw Hats, the Franky family, Galley Law, Grandma, the Kid, the Cat Bunny, and the Frog all rolling up to Enies Lobby to save Robin and Franky. Before they even fully arrived, Luffy disappears. He's rushed ahead. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just looking for Robin at this point, and he's destroying everybody and every building that gets in his way. The Navy is trying to contact Spandam and tell him that they're getting wrecked, but Spandam is too busy reveling in his own power to actually hear them. They tell him that he's taken down 4,000 of their men. Spandam said 4,000, that's absurd. They said, actually, it's more like 5, and Spandam said, oh, just 5? He's spending his time up in the Tower of Law with CP9 and his 2 new prisoners, Robin and Franky, and he's talking about how he'll for sure get a promotion. He's also parading around his little golden Buster Call button. He can press at any time to have the Marines come and destroy Enies Lobby. Meanwhile, at the front of the island, there are 2 Elbaf giants guarding the front gates that Galley Law and the Franky family have to take down. Everyone has pretty much agreed that the Straw Hats don't need to waste time fighting the small people, and they need to get to Robin and Franky as quickly as possible before they get taken through the gates of justice. Luffy has already made it to the roof of the courthouse where he's fighting Blueno, a member of CP9 that ate the door fruit and can turn anything, and I mean anything, into a door. And during that fight, Luffy demonstrates that he's learned CP9's shave technique that allows him to move real darn fast. He also reveals his second gear, in which he gets down into a pose and pumps blood into his legs, and it makes him stronger, and it also shortens his lifespan. Might be a problem later. Luffy says that getting beaten by Aokiji inspired him to get stronger, and he says, I've got to be stronger than everyone or else I'll lose them, and he's talking about his crew. Once they get in, the Straw Hats ride the 2 King Bulls, Sodom and Gomorrah, through the city towards the courthouse where Luffy is. Just to mention, Sodom and Gomorrah, they're loyal to Franky and the Franky family because Franky didn't eat them because he was too full from eating something else at the time, and they are so happy that they didn't get eaten. And their undying loyalty and how hard they fight, how hard they're pushing themselves for such a stupid reason is really adorable. While they're riding towards the courthouse, they realize that Sniper King never got on the King Bulls. And let's just pause for a second. Can we appreciate how everyone just goes along and calls Usopp Sniper King even though everyone knows that it's Usopp? Except for Luffy and Chopper, of course, who just like cannot see through the mask. No one brings up the Water 7 fight. They're just like, okay, Sniper King, let's go, because there are more important issues to attend to. And I think that that's awesome because Sniper King does some super important stuff in this arc that only he could do, such as talk to the giants of Elbaf. Their names are Oimo and Kashi, and they were led to believe that their two leaders had been imprisoned by Marines, and in exchange for their freedom, they have to guard the gates of Enies Lobby for 100 years. But it had only been 50 years up until that day when the pirates attacked and defeated them. So Oimo is crying now that their leaders are going to be stuck in prison forever. Usopp remembers meeting their leaders because their leaders are the giants that they met at Little Garden, and they inspired Usopp so much, and he explains to Oimo how they weren't in prison and how the Marines tricked them. And it's funny because the story he's telling sounds exactly like the kind of story that he would lie about in the past, but he's telling the truth, and the whole time he's really trying to get Oimo to believe him, and Oimo does believe him. Then they convert the two Elbaf giants to fight on their side, both with a desire for revenge against the Marines. And throughout the story, people constantly mention how amazing it is that Usopp got the giants to turn against the Marines, and they were a huge asset in that whole entire battle. Luffy has defeated Blueno, and Franky has gotten Robin an opening to go stand at the balcony and go see Luffy because he's calling up to her. Robin goes up to the balcony and tells Luffy to stop and go away, and that she just wants to die. Luffy does not accept that answer. Pretty soon, the rest of the Straw Hats show up, and the moment when the Straw Hats assembled on top of the courthouse in front of the Tower of Law was absolutely hilarious. I'm not talking about when they lined up like badasses. I'm talking about when they first got there. So you have Nami and Chopper, who burst through the roof, not knowing what the heck just happened. Then Zoro climbs out of the hole that he created because he couldn't find stairs, so he just made his own elevator. And then Nami starts yelling at Zoro for being too dangerous, saying that he could have hurt her and Chopper. Chopper just on the ground, just like, ow, oh my gosh, just ow. And so Sanji kicks through the roof and lands, and he's talking about, I'm the first one here. He's not at all. And then he starts yelling at Zoro for existing. Just everybody's just yelling at Zoro. And then Sniper King Usopp goes flying through the air because one of the giants threw him up there, and he crash lands and gets stuck in the roof from his head to his torso. And Sanji and Chopper just walk over, just like, oh gosh, better go save Usopp, and they start pulling on his legs to get him out. And in front of all of this, Luffy is standing there, picking his nose. And he's telling Robin, hey, if you want to die, can you do it later? Because it took us a lot of work to get here. And Robin is just staring at all of this, and she is incredulous, and she looks disappointed, and she looks concerned. And then Luffy says, if you want to die, whatever, that's fine. But if you say it as part of our crew. And so you have Robin, a woman who has been running her whole life, and she now has a group of people chasing after her, telling her to stay, not because they want to use her as a tool, not because they want her bounty, but because they consider her a friend, and because they want her for her. And there's like so much more on that later. I can't get into that right now because first we have to go back into Robin's backstory. I did not trust Robin at first. I'm sorry, Robin. She just showed up on the ship after Alabasta, after being complicit with Crocodile schemes, and she's talking about, I have nowhere else to go. And then Luffy says, I see your problem, you can stay with us. And so like just immediately accepted her into the crew. Looking back, they really were her only option. The Marines were coming, Straw Hats were leaving. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. She got onto the Straw Hat ship. Little did she know that the enemy of her enemy was actually her family. Growing up, Robin lived on an island called Ohara, and the village children called Robin a monster girl because of her devil fruit power. She lived with her aunt's family, and she was treated like an outsider in her own home, like a Harry Potter type situation. And though her mother loved her, her mother left her to go live her own life, which is a lot like Usopp's father. Robin only found acceptance with the archaeologists, and even they kept her at an arm's length because they didn't want her knowing too much about their dangerous research because she was still a child. She meets a giant named Jaguar D. Saul, and he says that all members of his family have that middle initial, which I find very interesting. He teaches Robin about laughter and happiness, and everything's all right until he learns that Robin's mother's name is Olvia and that he's on the island of Ohara. And he tells her that the government is coming to get rid of all of the scholars on the island because of their research on the poneglyph and the missing 100 years of history. We see that Robin's mother has come back to the island to warn the other scholars. The scholars accept it, saying that they're not leaving their books behind. Olvia's like, okay, you don't know me. And she grabs her rifle and she runs into town. She does ask how Robin's doing, but decides not to meet her ultimately because she doesn't want anyone to know that Robin is a criminal's daughter. Next, Robin has run all the way from Saul to the Tree of Knowledge and asks if her mother is there. She actually passed her mother on the way to the Tree of Knowledge, but she was abandoned at such a young age that she doesn't actually know what her mother looks like. The scholars say, no, your mom's not here. And also, don't tell anyone that you're a scholar. The Navy reaches the library and captures all of the scholars. They tell the rest of the island to evacuate. Rather than go evacuate with the people who hate her, Robin decides to stay with the scholars. We learn that the government is wiping them out because of the power that they've gained through the knowledge that they've obtained, and how they would be able to revive ancient weapons, or someone could take advantage of all the scholars and force them to revive ancient weapons. Professor Clover, kind of like the leader of all the scholars, he starts talking about how the scholars are just trying to learn about history. They are just trying to figure out why the poneglyphs were created in the first place and what enemy compelled those people to make the poneglyphs. He believes it's most likely the world government because like the whole thing about the victor telling the history. And then he starts talking about the ancient kingdom that got destroyed, and to this day that the government is threatened by the very idea of the existence of this ancient kingdom. And of course he gets shot before he can say the name of that kingdom. After that, Ohara is issued a buster call. The Spandine, whoever he is, he's Spandam's dad. But he's like, y'all know too much, buster call. And so as Olvia is being taken away by the Navy, Robin calls out to her and asks her if she's her mother. Of course, Olvia has to say no because she doesn't want Robin to get the government's attention. But Robin keeps asking if Olvia's her mom because like she doesn't know, but she knows, you know. And of course, it gets out that Robin can read poneglyphs. And Spandine hears that and tells his men to memorize Robin's face. The buster call starts, a cannon lands nearby the Navy, and they all get scared and they yeet out of there. They just leave everybody. They're just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they're gonna fire on everything, and then they get out. They leave Olvia. Robin finally gets to hug her mom. Her mom tells her that she's proud of her, and then she gives Robin to Saul, tells Saul to take her off the island, but not before giving Robin this message. She says that history is humanity's greatest asset and that it needs to be passed on, and she says that even though Ohara is meeting its end, that their message will live on in Robin, and she tells Robin to live. And we find out that Saul is a Navy deserter who didn't want to go along with killing researchers just because those were the orders. As Saul is running away, he gets stopped by Vice Admiral Kuzan, soon to be Admiral Aokiji, and Admiral Aokiji starts to freeze him. Saul tells Robin that someday she will meet true friends that will protect her, and he said that no matter who you are, that nobody is born in this world to be alone. And he sends her off to go find friends and to live with them. Kuzan does catch up to Robin, but he lets her go on a boat that will lead to landfall. He tells her that he's not her ally and that he'll be the first person to come after her if she does anything nefarious. And then we see a montage of Robin growing up with a 79 million berry bounty on her head as a child. Everyone that she stays with either wants the reward money or they want her for her skills, and she's always either running away or being kicked out. And now she's found the Straw Hats, the best people that she's ever seen, and she wouldn't be able to bear it if they turned her away or if she caused their end. Luffy does not care how big his friend's enemies are. He'll defeat them. The enemy of Luffy's friend is Luffy's enemy. Arlong, Crocodile, Inaru, the world, it doesn't matter. He's decided that he's going to become as strong as he needs to be to protect the people that he loves. After Spandam goes on bragging about what the world government flag represents, Luffy tells Sniper King to shoot down the flag, meaning that if the world is going to go against Robin, then the Straw Hats are going to go against the world. And I think this moment, of course this moment's awesome, like of course. But like, we know how much Luffy cares about flags because on Drum Island, they were shooting at Chopper's flag and Luffy stopped the fight to go lecture people about like, you don't do that to someone else's flag. And then here he is directly firing at a flag and he knows exactly what he's doing. Spandam tells Luffy that he can't challenge the whole world and expect to win. And then Luffy says, yeah? Bring it on. Once Robin sees this, she knows that the Straw Hats are truly sticking with her. They're not abandoning her. They saw the trouble that she brings and they don't care. She tried to push them away, but they wouldn't listen. And now that it's finally an option for her, now that she finally has a home with people who care about her for the first time in her whole life, Robin says that she wants to live. In the moments before, she's saying, I can live. I never dared to wish for something like that. I was straight up boo-hooing. I remember texting my friend like, oh my gosh, this show is amazing. And after that, they had a series of little like flashback episodes that I skipped over, but I played the first one and I saw that the OP had changed back to We Are for a little bit. And I was just crying at how great this freaking show is. Like, I had known, but I hadn't known. And I probably still don't know the full extent to how awesome this show is. But that was just fantastic. So Robin says she wants to live. Everyone's like, all right, now we can finally get started. And so they make it over to the Tower of Law where Spandam and CP9 are. The Straw Hats and Franky are all fighting, and everyone holds their own in some type of way against a member of CP9. Supposedly the best people to ever do it, except for Sanji, who can't fight Khalifa. More on that later. But other than that, everyone has their own power-ups in this fight. Nami has her perfect climb attack. Chopper took 3 Rumble Balls in a row and unleashed Monster Point, which is actually really dangerous for him. Usopp has his new Kabuto slingshot. Zoro and Sanji have some new moves, and Luffy also has his 2nd and 3rd gear. So let's talk about Sanji's moral code. He goes to face Khalifa. We see a little bit more into the extent of Sanji's moral code. He will not fight a woman, even if she's the enemy, and he has to fight her to save a woman that he actually cares about. He won't do it. And I actually think that that might be interesting to see how the other Straw Hats would react in a similar situation. I don't think Luffy would have a problem with it at all, considering that he punched Princess Vivi in the face. Zoro can't fight that one chick because she looks like his childhood friend. Other than that, I think a woman with a sword might not be an issue for him. I don't know what Chopper and Usopp would do. And the question is, are Nami and Robin just going to be present whenever there are women around that need fighting? For some reason, I don't think that's the case. Not that I want to see the guys fighting women, but Sanji's moral code is so strong, I just wonder if anyone else has a similar code like that they live by. Going back before we go forward, Kaku and Khalifa are both offered devil fruits before this entire battle. They have both just gotten new devil fruit powers. We learned that no one can eat more than one devil fruit, otherwise the 2 devils inside them will start fighting. And there's also no way to know what kind of fruit that you'll get until after you eat it. So given that, we know that Khalifa was given the soap fruit to turn people into little soap people. And it was hilarious to see that Kaku the square nose guy was having a hard time adjusting to his new devil fruit powers. And we saw that during his fight with Zoro. He ate the ox fruit, giraffe type. People were outright commenting on how silly he looked as like a human giraffe. And he went out of his way to memorize all of these facts about giraffes, and he's being adamant that he loves giraffes when he really just got got played. This whole wolf, giraffe, Zoro, Usopp fight is taking place in one room. Zoro and Usopp are handcuffed together at one point, and Zoro uses Usopp as his sword, having Usopp hold his sword, and he holds Usopp's legs together and tells him to stay still while he swings him around. Eventually, Sanji comes back. He got wet and Khalifa's soap wore off. He was incapacitated for a minute, but now he's back. He comes back right when Usopp is about to really get got by the wolf. It's important to note that no one is really calling Usopp Sniper King anymore. Usopp starts apologizing for getting beaten. Sanji tells him that it's enough that he's still alive and that everyone has things that they can and cannot do, which is something that Usopp needs to hear. Sanji goes further to tell Usopp that he's going to take care of the wolf and he's going to do what Usopp can't, and that he needs Usopp to go do what he can't. And that's one thing about Sanji that I like. He always seems to be aware of his own limitations and he focuses on what can be done. From others, he doesn't expect any more than the best that they can do. He also is prone to go off and do things on his own without telling anybody and without discussing it first. But unlike Luffy, he's planned steps ahead, and he'll let people know what's going on when they need to know. Luffy versus Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci is really giving Luffy a hard time even with the second and third gear. This is the first time that Luffy hasn't been incapacitated in some type of way before the battle begins. Usually it takes a while for the fighting to really get started because Luffy is either not present or he's unconscious or both. But Luffy's been fighting this whole time and he's still fighting, and my guy is struggling. Usopp even has to give him a pep talk in the middle of it to get him going again, and we've never seen Luffy get it this bad. And eventually Luffy defeats Rob Lucci, and all the Marines can't believe it because Rob Lucci is like the best that they've got. Everyone's cheering and we find out that the Franky family and Galley Law are still alive. They'd been presumed dead earlier, and that was a pretty touching moment. So all that's left to be done is to board the evacuation ship that they have and leave. But Usopp looks over to Luffy and sees that Luffy has not moved. He asks him what's wrong, and Luffy says that he can't move. Nami tells everyone that they'll get on the ship and bring the ship to Luffy, but then the ship gets shot down by Marines. Mind you that this is the same ship that Granny Kokoro, Chimney, and Chopper are on. Sanji comes running up carrying all of them because you don't realize that Sanji's gone until he's actually coming back, and it turns out that they all got out in time. When Nami asks him where he's been, he said that he had something that he needed to take care of. They all get cornered and they're all completely surrounded, and the Marines are about to fire on the structure that Luffy is in because it's not a building anymore. It's just gotten destroyed. And everyone is telling Luffy to stand up, and all Luffy can do is say, "I'm in trouble." And then Usopp hears a voice, and then everyone else starts to hear a voice too. It's telling them to look below. And then Usopp starts yelling for everyone to jump into the sea because they still have one more friend left. Robin uses her hands to toss Luffy into the sea, and then everybody else jumps too. And a voice says, "Let's go back to the seas of adventure." And it shows the Mary on screen, and she says, "I came to get you." And it's just... And then they get on board, and everybody's trying to figure out who sailed it over there, who sailed it past all those giant marine ships, who lowered the rope ladder. And then Spandam starts yelling and lying about orders, saying that they're allowed to kill Robin, and he tells all the ships to fire on the Mary, and then they all miss, and then they all start to crash into each other. And turns out that this is what Sanji was off doing. Sanji went and he closed the gates of justice, and it screwed up the current. It got all of the marine ships stuck so that they couldn't chase after them. This whole time Spandam is just hollering and just putting up a big fuss about how all his plans went to crap, and he got Robin's attention. Robin killed Spandam, and she did it very easily. She didn't do it in the heat of battle. He wasn't fighting back. She wasn't fighting at all. She was just doing. There was no discussion, no consulting with the captain like, "Hey, you mind if I kill this dude?" None of that. This is the first time that we've seen a Straw Hat kill someone with a name. I mean, I'm sure there are people who have died based on how hard they fight, but it's usually like Sailor B or like, I don't know, Pirate A or whatever. But this is the first time that someone who's had a name and has had lines and has had an active part to play in the plot, this is the first time that a Straw Hat has killed them. Unless I'm mistaken, but I don't think I'm mistaken. And I believe that that opened a door that there's no going back and closing. So let's talk about Spandam and maybe see why he died when all of the other big bads that they faced in the past haven't. But first off, let's get this straight. Spandam was not the big bad in the sense of big bads. Lucci was the big bad. Spandam was not physically powerful in any way, but he was in charge of CP9. And Spandam was an ass, and all he did was order people around, and he is a coward himself. Unlike Luffy, who goes after the toughest people so that his crew doesn't have to, Spandam expects his underlings to protect him and that they are in service to him. The Straw Hats follow Luffy because they respect him, while CP9 followed Spandam because under his orders they were allowed to kill people. He is a power-hungry imbecile who does not respect women, and the way he treated Robin was absolutely blood boiling, and it was atrocious. And he repeatedly attacked her physically and mentally when she was defenseless in both capacities. And his actions were reprehensible, and he needed to pay because Lucci got his, the rest of CP9 got theirs. Spandam, come get some. And so the question was, how is he going to pay? Is Sanji gonna come kick him in the face? Is Luffy gonna gum pistol him off somewhere? And no, we've seen this happen before to others because of their screwy ideals and goals, but never for mentally and physically degrading a crew member the way that Spandam did. His behavior was so ghastly, and Robin was so defenseless that simply getting his butt whooped like everybody else would not have been enough. And Robin had to be the one to do it because she had to. Reasons, I don't know. Writing. She didn't fist fight him. She didn't kill him as soon as she got free, even though she could have. She was calm, and everybody was getting away. And then Spandam started lamenting that all of his plans went to crap out loud, and he got Robin's attention. And she said, "Oh, you're still alive? Let me fix that." And she bent him over in the opposite direction that people are supposed to bend over. She pulled the push door, and it opened. And even though Robin was cool on the outside, the way that Spandam treated her may have been akin to what she was feeling internally for so many years. And her killing him was symbolic of her eradicating that mindset within herself and within the world. And so he died. I was not mad at it. I would not have even paid much attention to it if they had killed any other villains before. But Spandam was the first one, and there was no question that he was dead. This is definitely setting a standard, showing us that this is the type of person that the Straw Hats kill. And I just think that's really interesting. I don't think that he's gonna be the first person that they kill. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, I think Luffy's gonna kill someone. Has he tried not to kill people? Because he fights real hard and he hasn't killed people. What would that look like? Okay. We're gonna put that away and we're going to move on. So they're all on the ship sailing away, and they're all trying to figure out how the Mary got there and what was that voice that they heard. And then Usopp ain't saying nothing, and then Franky ain't saying nothing about Usopp saying nothing, because they're the only two that really know what Usopp saw. I forgot what it was called, bruh, but he saw that spirit. Iceberg shows up on a galley law ship, and then shortly after that the Mary breaks in half. I'm sure Iceberg showed up because he knew that they'd be sailing off on the Mary if they sailed off at all, and that the Mary would not last long. So Luffy starts begging Iceberg to help them, and he's starting to sound a lot like Usopp on Water 7. He's asking Iceberg to do anything to fix it. Iceberg says that he's sorry, but he's already done all that he can for the ship. And he tells them about how the Mary spoke to him on the night of Aqua Laguna and told him that she wanted to sail one more time, so he fixed her up as best as he could, and then he let her out to sea. and he said that it was a miracle that the ship went beyond its limits to see the crew one more time, and he said that the Mary lived a wonderful life. And everyone finally understands that the Mary is really more than just a ship. And everyone is lined up for the funeral, and Luffy says some words before lighting the Mary on fire. He mentions that it's probably for the best that Usopp isn't there because he's not sure if Usopp would be able to take it. He says this, of course, because Usopp is still wearing his Sniper King mask and Luffy can't tell that he's actually still there. Zoro asks Usopp if it's true that he can't handle it because Usopp was the main one holding on to the ship. And Usopp says, of course it's not true, I can handle this, we all have to say our farewell someday. And I'm like, it better be okay by now, because the ship snapped in half and like he's actively seeing that there's nothing more that can be done, but whatever. Anyway, Luffy thanks Mary for carrying them for so long and so far, and then it starts snowing and this piano music starts playing, and there's a flashback montage of them all living and sailing on the ship and going to the Grand Line and going to Skypiea. And honestly, I was good. I was like, dang, that's real sad. And then the darn ship started talking and apologizing for breaking. And then Luffy started apologizing for not taking care of her as best as he could. And then the ship says, she says that it was fine because she was happy. And I'm just like, ah, dang. There it is. I was like, oh, well, I'm crying now. I'm crying about a ship. And I think most of the time it's not the deaths that are sad, but I think it's the characters' reactions to them. And the characters' reactions are honestly the worst, and they really spent time showing everybody's reaction. Usopp has a waterfall streaming down from behind his mask. Nami and Chopper are crying. Even Robin is tearing up. Sanji is smoking. Zoro is Zoroing real hard. And then Franky is crying, which is a thing I like to touch on because I believe that Franky's crying and Franky's tears are part of the reason why he's won the audience over, and by the audience I mean me at least, why I personally don't hate him and why I haven't hated him even after all he did in Water 7. Franky and the Franky family consistently react to the Straw Hats' actions. They are amazed when I'm amazed. Franky got choked up when Robin said that she wanted to live too. He's just like, you guys are awesome, I love you so much. And he's literally sitting there as a character in the show verbalizing the thoughts that I'm thinking in my own head right now. I mean, as it's going on. And Franky's and his family's emotions are on display for the audience to see and relate to. And it's hard to dislike people that you can relate to. So that is really how they got everybody to warm up to Franky and his family. And of course, like, it helped that they were all fighting alongside the Straw Hats, but just to really push that idea of forgiveness, and that what the Franky family did was really like no big deal. So moving forward to Post-Enies Lobby, we're shoving it at the end of this already too long video. Franky's Amazon package came, and by that I mean the thing that he spent the Straw Hats 200 million berries on. He bought some real fancy high quality wood for a ship, and he said that he'll build it for the Straw Hats because it's his dream to have a crew that he admires go on and sail it. Luffy's grandfather, Monkey D. Garp, shows up. Turns out he's a Marine. Also, Kobe and Helmeppo are there. They've come back from the beginning. Garp tells Luffy about his father, Monkey D. Dragon. And Luffy's like, I didn't know I had a father. Bro, what? And so anyway, this really got me thinking about Luffy's family. So, in Robin's backstory, Saul, his full name is Jaguar D. Saul. He says that all members of his family have the middle initial D. The only conclusion that I draw from that is that Luffy and his family are somehow related to giants. You have Monkey D. Garp, you have Monkey D. Dragon, you have Monkey D. Luffy, and you have Portgas D. Ace. And so the question is, where did Portgas come from? I get like jaguar and monkey, but I don't know about Portgas, and I'm scared to look it up because I don't want spoilers. Or it could just be Oda being Oda and naming people whatever the heck he wants. The judge on Enies Lobby, his name is Left Baskerville, Right Baskerville, and Central Freeway. And what the heck is that? Like, how do you name these people? Like, what are you doing? And so, like, part of me doesn't want to look too much into names, but part of me is like, these names have to be important. And then also, you have Gold D. Roger and Marshall D. Teach, which is Blackbeard's name. And he shows up later in Post-Enies Lobby. And I assume they're all related in some type of way. Pretty sure this will all be revealed in time. But I'm calling it, they're all family in some type of way. That can't be a coincidence. How would that be why would that be a coincidence? Why would that just be... Okay, anyway. I assume all of this will be revealed in time. Kobe tells Luffy about the new world, the second half of the Grand Line, and how everybody who's anybody goes to the new world, and so I assume that's where we'll be going pretty soon, even though they say that the next destination is Fishman Island. Everyone gets a bounty this time, including Franky, and because of this, the Franky family asked the Straw Hats to take Franky away. And I'd been wondering how they'd get Franky to join the crew since he got a flashback. As soon as he got that flashback, I was like, okay, he's probably gonna join the crew. Okay, and I was mad at him at the time, but now it's like, his whole entire Enies Lobby thing was kind of like a Straw Hat audition. And so, the Thousand Sunny, their brand new ship, is revealed, and it is awesome. And Franky is not there because he knows that Luffy's gonna ask him to join the crew. And he knows that if Luffy asks him to join the crew, then he's gonna say yes. So he hides. In order to draw him out, his family steals his underwear. And he chases them all the way to Luffy, who says that in order to get his underwear back, he has to join the crew. And when that's not enough, Robin uses her devil fruit powers to squeeze his little manly bits until he agrees. And so, they're all leaving the island, Straw Hats, and Franky is now a Straw Hat. The one person who's not there is Usopp, because Usopp still hasn't apologized for what he did. Even though he was justified in his actions, and he was ultimately right about the Mary being more than a ship, and how they shouldn't just throw her away, he was still wrong for insulting and fighting Luffy. And Luffy could not just welcome him back and pretend that nothing happened. But that's exactly what Usopp wants Luffy to do. And he's talking about, I was just kidding, y'all. Can't believe y'all actually believe that. But he's not saying any of the right words, so the crew doesn't hear him. And finally, Usopp breaks down and apologizes, begging Luffy to take him back. And he's on his hands and knees, just a sobbing mess as the new ship gets further and further away. And as soon as Luffy hears this, he stretches his hand out all the way to the shore and he tells Usopp to hurry up and grab on, and he's just crying just as hard. He's just like, oh my gosh, I missed him so much. And he was like, it's just so cute. And so like, he was like so serious fighting, he's like pretending, and he was doing real well. And then like as soon as he hears Usopp apologize, he lets himself show that emotion. He's just like, alright, come back here. And so with that, the crew is finally free to leave Water 7 and go on to their next adventure. And then also Ace fights Blackbeard. Okay. Things are only going to get harder from here, I am sure of it. There's going to be a war because you don't shoot down the world government's flag without consequences. Luffy is going to need some training or something if his enemies are just going to get harder from here, because Rob Lucci was like the worst one that we've seen so far, and Luffy was paralyzed after that. His enemies are just going to get tougher. Dang. How? Dang. Anyway, I've been Mimi Mosey. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in Thriller Bark. Bye.